Kyle Klingman with Trackwrestling going to Philadelphia for DJ Futrell. He is the director of mentoring with Beat the Streets Philadelphia. He's tied into the ecosystem that Brandon Slay talks about. Really glad to have you on, BJ.
Thanks. I'm excited to be on. Happy left-hander day because it's lefty day today. So.
Is that what it is? I didn't even know. And you're left-handed?
I am. Yep.
When did you find out? That's a good starting question.
When did I find out? I think just in the sport of wrestling, I think it's kind of advantageous to be a lefty. When most Americans, I would say, are righty, but as you continue to reach higher levels of the sport and travel internationally more, you'll see that most guys are lefties. And so I guess that's probably about the period of time when I start to really just wrestle more. But even, I mean, in school and everything, I do everything with my left hand, writing and kicking, everything. So, yeah.
What was it like growing up in wrestling? And did you find that it was a good fit for you right away?
Growing up in wrestling. So, I mean, I started out wrestling at the Harvey Twister wrestling program, being coached by Harvey, who is one of the greatest men that I've ever come into contact with, and it was a really great experience. My dad introduced me to the sport. My dad wrestled in high school and in the state of Illinois, and he was actually a state champion in 1977, and then continue on throughout high school. So actually now, like, I have 7 state titles within my family. So I won 2 state titles in high school, and then I have 3. My sister has 3 boys, and so I'm an uncle of many. But the 3 of them each have an individual state title. They made Illinois state history this year by being the first 3 brothers to win a state title in a single year. So they all won one, and the oldest, he's going to be attending Campbell University next year, and so we have 7 state titles with the opportunity to add 4 more. So that's an exciting kind of fun fact, I guess, about our family. And so I started wrestling at the Harvey Twisters, a phenomenal organization, and just has so much history and tradition as far as people that have come out of that program. And I think that speaks to the leadership of Coach Quint. And you mentioned guys like Joe Williams, TJ Williams, Cassio Perot, Albert White, Mario Morgan, all those guys. It's real. TC Danzler, another Olympian. It's really incredible of the generational impact that Coach Quint has been able to have through that organization. And then I continued to wrestle, went to Mount Carmel High School. Now, I wrestled at the University of Illinois. I was a couple-time All-American there. Competed 7 years internationally. I spent this last year as an assistant coach at the U.S. Naval Academy, and now I'm stepping into the role of director of mentoring at Beat the Streets Philly. So that kind of leads us up to today. I actually start on Monday, so I haven't officially started yet, but I'm excited to get going.
Tell us more about Harvey Twisters, because it's such an iconic club, and it has developed all of the people that you mentioned and some. I'm sure there's more that we could add to that list, but what did that program do that was so special to get you to the place where you are right now?
Wow, what didn't it do? I think that would be a shorter list. But, I mean, like everything rises and falls on leadership, right? And then leadership rises and falls on communication. I think that it was really great communication and just an understanding that Coach Quint was able to build a culture of family within the organization, and that you always felt supported, whether he was encouraging you, whether he was, disciplining you. Like it was always coming from a place of love, and I think that was felt throughout the organization and throughout the parents that were involved with the program. And I think it was just a really sense of pride and a sense of loving community that it was able to have for a lot of young men. So,
are you going to take a lot of what you learned there and apply it to your role as mentoring director?
Well, my role as mentoring director is more so geared on the administrative side. So I'll be joining the executive team, and so I'll be more not necessarily behind the desk, but within the community and taking on tasks like coaches development and grant writing and raising funds, and then also building out the mentoring center itself and expanding our impact. And I think that, so I don't know if that, I mean, it indirectly, I guess, applies, but I think one of the things that I can take from my time coaching at the Naval Academy is the ability to be able to communicate a vision, number one, because as you're recruiting, that's the lifeline of college programs. And then also just the ability to be able to empathize, because the young men at the U.S. Naval Academy, they are so resilient, so disciplined, and so men of very high character. But at the same time, there are barriers to success that they can sometimes be faced with. So that helped me be able to have compassion for that, but at the same time still believe in better for those young men, and believe that they can still be able to have success on the wrestling mat in the greatest capacity. So that believe in better motto is something that we believe in at Beat the Streets. So for those that don't know, Beat the Streets Philadelphia is a sports-based youth development nonprofit, and it's committed to fostering the holistic development of student athletes in underserved communities. And so we do that by implementing things such as mentoring, academic support, and wrestling programs throughout the city of Philadelphia to positively alter life trajectory. And so our core values are grit, compassion, service, and team. And Beat the Streets was really founded on the principle that all children have the potential to become positively contributing citizens when they're provided with the proper support. And this belief has endured since the establishment of the first BTS program in 2009. And to this day, Beat the Streets remain focused on running wrestling programs and mentoring programs to create greater positive impact for the youth that it serves. And so that it's a big community of people that help make that happen, from our board of directors, from our coaches, our staff. And we're all working to clear a pathway for our student athletes in order to help give them a steeper developmental path in an efficient and effective manner. Because the reality is, Beat the Streets, or Philadelphia, as great of a city as it is, it's of the 10 largest cities in America, Philadelphia has the highest rate of poverty among the 10 largest cities in America. And so with that, that affects the school system as well. And so there are definitely some inadequacies within the Philadelphia public school system. And Beat the Streets Philly is committed to stepping in and really closing that opportunity gap that exists for our students. So the graduation rate for the average graduation rate for students in living in Philadelphia is at 69%, and graduates, people that are fully involved with our mentoring center at Beat the Streets, the graduation rate is 98%. So we're having a huge impact, and I'm excited to be a part of this organization and help it be able to go forward and grow with perpetuity.
So when you say a mentoring center, does that mean there's actually a physical building that people can come to and get advice from you? Take us through what that looks like on a day-to-day basis for you.
Yeah, so we actually have a mentoring center on 37th and Market within the city of Philadelphia. So it's and it's kind of located central so that as many kids as possible can kind of get to the mentoring center to be able to use, be able to have access to mentors. And within the Philadelphia public school system, I think the ratio of mentors to students is like 139 to 1. And so that's obviously inadequate to have real impact and be able to help kids through, difficult situations, life adversity, or even just, applying to colleges and learning more about, financial aid and the process and the path to higher education. So the students access the resource center to the mentoring center to have access to those mentors, and then also, computers and just other academic services that we provide. And it's also just a safe place. Every year we're seeing a trend or a surge within the violent crimes that happen within the city of Philadelphia. The juvenile shooting rates and things like that are increasing. And the most vulnerable time for those crimes to happen is right after school. And so Beat the Streets, last year alone, we had over 120,000 hours of programming time. And that 120,000 hours, the majority of those hours happened during the most violent or vulnerable time for our students. So we're providing a safe place for our students to be able to have community, to be able to have academic help and resources, and also be able to, kind of encourage them along the path of whatever they might want to do in the future. So we definitely believe in, in our mission statement, we believe that, believe in positively altering life trajectory. And we believe that path is very, very individualized. Every student has their own trajectory. And so whatever that is, whether that's wrestling in college, whether that's, going into the workforce, whether that's going into the military, whether that's learning a trade, we just want to be able to help them navigate those pathways and be able to give them the resources and the support that they need in order to be able to do that. So,
Brandon Slay, who is the Pennsylvania RTC coach and executive director, talks about the ecosystem with Beat the Streets Philadelphia, Pan, Drexel, and the PRTC. What's that ecosystem look like from your vantage point, BJ?
Yeah, I think exactly that. So, like you said, the PRTC, Pennsylvania Regional Training Center, paired with the University of Pennsylvania, paired with Drexel University, paired with Beat the Streets Philly. I mean, that ecosystem of those four components all working together and serving one another to fulfill the mission of impacting lives both locally and globally is incredible. I think it's something that it's difficult to replicate because you don't have two universities that have wrestling programs that are literally 3 blocks away on any I don't think anywhere in America. So it's an incredible opportunity for our Beat the Streets beneficiaries to be able to develop relationships with student athletes at Drexel University, at the University of Penn, and be able to kind of break down some of the barriers that they might have, or to kind of, like I said, believe in better, that after doing life with those guys and being mentored by those guys, and they able to kind of filter some of their questions and just be able to kind of walk with them through life, it kind of makes them start to believe that there is something better, and that, maybe things that they might have thought before was out of reach is actually very attainable, given if they put in the work. So.
How much do you work with the Modders? They were at Pennsylvania and heavily involved. Do you deal with them quite frequently?
Yeah, so they're both on the chair of and on the board of directors. Clint is the chair boardman, and he is actually the how I kind of ended up in this position, because so when I was a PRTC athlete, I became very involved with Beat the Streets right away, and I volunteered there for 3 years. Beat the Streets was actually a huge component in me actually moving to Philadelphia from the Cliff King Wrestling Club in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I was training there for a while, and I was content but not complacent. I had great training partners. I had great coaches, and I'm thankful for Sean Burnett and Andy Rovat and their dedication and the time that they put into me and invested in me. But after the 2016 Olympic trials, Brandon Slade came to me and presented me with this opportunity to be a part of this very ecosystem that we're talking about. And to me, really the the tip, like I believed in all the training and everything. I had a relationship with Brandon because I spent the summer living at the Olympic Training Center back in 2012 during the Olympic team camp. And so me and Brandon built a relationship from there. And then, so I believed in the training and that I would have all the resources to be successful on the mat. But really the tipping point for me, the biggest selling point was that I was going to be able to serve and be able to be a part of something that's bigger than myself. And that was through the Beat the Streets Philly organization. And so, that really sparked, kind of like started training. So I volunteered there for 3 years and was really heavily involved. I was a coach at one of the programming sites. So Beat the Streets Philly has 30 programming sites across the city. And if you look at like the map of kind of where we placed every program, we statistically placed every program in the communities that needed the most need, the most help, the most support. And I mean, from that, just my level of involvement, I think Clint was really impressed, I'll say humbly. And then he just presented me with the opportunity to be able to get involved. And I think this is a critical time in our country. I think like we're dealing with so many issues as far as COVID, which are disproportionately impacting communities that are underserved. And we're dealing with, social and racial unrest. And so these are things that I was passionate about and excited to be able to have the opportunity to get involved with. And I'm excited to be a part of this organization. So that's how it kind of all started.
Speak to that part of it. Consistently you hear, and I think of Lee Kemp, who is a 3-time world champion, who has said that being able to see an African-American wrestler succeed allowed me to see a path that I could succeed. Is that something you can relate to, what he said right there?
Definitely. I think guys like Lee Kemp, Kenny Monday, who was the first ever African-American Olympic champion. Like, you would think that's not that long. Like, it's really not that long ago when you think about it. And so in 2020 to still be having to say the phrase, this is the first African person to do this or that, I think that highlights just some of the disparities that exist for people of color within America. And it's definitely being able to see other people that have been successful, that are in positions of leadership, that are succeeding in society. It's definitely motivating, because when you look at media, you look at a lot of companies and a lot of executive positions, it's rarely do you see people of color. And I think that's really unfortunate, because I think if there was more diversity and inclusion, it would strengthen companies. It would strengthen us as a society. So I think there needs to be a lot more work to kind of break down some of those barriers or those systemic issues that exist that are impeding the progress of Black people and people of color. And but it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely motivating to see people succeed, because if I never see anybody that looks like me succeed, I start to question to myself, is that even possible? And even looking at the education system, I went to the University of Illinois, which is a predominantly white institution. I don't think I had a professor of color until I was in grad school. And then looking at all of my other years of secondary education, things like that, it was very, very rare. So like I said, it's very impactful to have diversification, and it's necessary for our society.
How can your role that you're about to embark on, how can that be part of the solution to identify with African-American kids and be that leader that can create a path for them?
I just think innately, with me stepping into an executive position and having the education and the background and the experience that I have, I'm prepared to uniquely to meet some of those challenges, and I'm excited to meet some of those challenges. And I think it starts with relationships, right? And like I said, I spent 3 years in Philadelphia building relationships with these kids, living in the communities with these kids. So I've built that rapport with the kids, and they kind of know, they know me, and they know that I'm here to support them and encourage them in every way. And I think by having a diverse group of people that come together from all different backgrounds and cultures, I think you're able to, when you're having discussions and making policies and making decisions that are affecting a certain group of people, I think you're able to have a more holistic view and able to kind of take more things into consideration that maybe not have been thought of, or maybe that maybe not have been identified if it wasn't more diversification on the staff. So I think it helps to be able to identify maybe some unconscious biases that exist, and I think it helps to, like I said, to motivate the kids of BTS Philadelphia to know that like success is possible, like it's something that's possible for them. But also, like, I think it's a big misconception that a lot of people have that BTS Philly, or just Black people, it's a misconception that a lot of people have that Black people are the only people living in poverty. Like I think it's very ill-informed, I'll say, because poverty is affecting a lot of different people, especially like within the communities of Philadelphia. There's communities that are predominantly white, predominantly Latinx, predominantly African-American. And like I said, it's the 10th largest, or Philadelphia has the 10th, of the 10 largest cities in America, Philadelphia has the highest poverty rate. So our organization in itself it's very diverse in our beneficiaries, because I would say 50%, 54% of our beneficiaries are African American, and the rest it's a makeup of every other ethnicity that it is. And then also, even within the inclusion of girls, of our 30 programs, all of our programs are 100% co-ed, and 14% of our beneficiaries are women, are young girls. So we're dedicated to helping them be able to grow and give them opportunities within the sport and within life as well. And we've had women that have graduated from the Beat the Streets program that have went on to wrestle in college and are pursuing higher education. And so it's been so many success stories within Beat the Streets. And as we continue to grow and move forward, I think I'm very hopeful that this is an organization that is hope producing and life giving. And so I think it's definitely powerful and impactful to be a part of, and that's something that I'm willing to dedicate my life to.
Can you dig into some of the unconscious bias? I think that's a really good concept that we need to explore, is what those look like and what we can all do to be better at that and make those conscious, so that we aren't part of that and we're part of the solution.
Yeah, I think you have to do some I think across America, I think there needs to be a lot of learning and unlearning of increasing your racial biases. And I think a lot of it just comes from dialogue, from having conversation, but then just not leaving the conversation on the table and not letting it be meaningless chatter. But actually, once you have some conversations with people of color from different experiences, different backgrounds from yours, and then going out and doing something about it. So I think it's number one, being aware. And so making yourself aware of things. Number two, being willing to acknowledge. Three, it's holding people accountable. And that can be very intimidating, and that can make some people very fearful of holding people accountable, whether that's people that's in your inner circle, people within your family, people that are in your group of friends. But holding people accountable, and then number 4, taking action and being willing to get involved, and understanding that it's not, this fight for racial equality and equity is not something that's a one-time event. This is not a trend. Like this is people's lives that are hanging in the balance. Like some people, this is something that you, if you want to consider yourself an ally, you need to be willing to dedicate your life to. It's not just a one-time event. It's not just I posted a black square on Instagram. It's not just I stood up this one time. But the question is, will you continue to stand up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when there may be some backlash. There may be people that disagree. I think it's that. I think that's what it takes.
You excited about getting started with your new role?
Definitely. I'm excited about moving back to Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia is such a rich city that has so much history, so much culture, so much energy and diversity. And just the people that are involved with Beat the Streets are so, and all of our students are so brilliant. I think it's so much untapped potential within the inner city of Philadelphia. And I'm excited to get back. I'm excited to be involved and help really, I think, have generational impact and being able to help these kids, help these families, and just come alongside them to provide them support that is needed. Because like I said, it's so many inequalities within the school systems and within, even housing segregation. So example, as our country is now growing rapidly in diversification, but most people are still unaware that patterns of segregation and still persist, most notably in schools and neighborhoods. So more than 60 years after the Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision, our public schools are still more segregated by race in every region except the West than they were in 1980. And so the highest percentage of school segregation exists within the Northeast. And the problem is separate still remains unequal, as schools with concentrated poverty and racial segregation are still more likely to have less experienced teachers, higher levels of teacher turnover, and inadequate facilities and fewer classroom resources. So I think Beat the Streets as an organization is stepping in to kind of fill that gap, fill that opportunity gap that our students are not getting, unfortunately. So it's an incredible organization, and it's, like I said, there's so many people involved and so many parents involved. I think that's another misconception, that the parents are not involved. The parents are, Belmont Charter, where I coach, the reason why Belmont Charter is successful is because the parents are so involved and so committed to their children's and invested in their children's success. So it's like I said, the community and the individuals of the community are talented, brilliant. It's a lot of diversification within that, but the community and the systemic issues that exist make it difficult for them to have the success that other people with more resources and opportunity have.
Your Twitter handle is Back to the Futrell. Do you like Back to the Future, the movies?
Yeah, for sure. Marty McFly, he's the man. I enjoyed. I think most the thing I like most are the shoes, the Nike Air Max, or I think they're called the self-lacing shoes. Those are really cool. At one point when I was making a comeback from the many surgeries that I had throughout my career, I had a hat that he had, the magical looking hat. So I found that on YouTube, or I found it on eBay or something like that.
So where would you go back in time, and how far into the future would you go?
Um, um, I don't know if I would go back in time because for people of color going back in time, that doesn't that probably wouldn't be a good situation for me as a black man because it wasn't a good time for us. But I would probably go into the future, and I would. My hope would be that organizations like Beat the Streets Philly will continue to pop up and make an impact on communities and the systemic racism that exists. And so I would definitely go into the future. How far I go into the future depends on the number of people that are willing to be a part of Beat the Streets Philly and be able to help us move forward.
Would you do what Marty McFly did in Back to the Future 2, get one of those sports almanacs and make some bets when you came back?
I don't know. Maybe I'd invest and make some bets and invest the money and give back to the community or something.